Welcome everybody to ZeroPoint, Module 10. I'm Kryptoid. Today we have Azylem, Joshy, and TheObjectiveAlpha on. We're going to be talking about some current events and goings on in the foundation of the project. First, before we get started, I'll go ahead and just kind of go around the table here and let everybody introduce themselves, who they are, what they do, a little bit about their background if they feel so inclined. And then we'll get moving. So first, Joshy, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Joshy. As you probably guessed, my name's not actually Joshy, it's Josh. Just want to clear that up straight away. But yeah, so I'm part of the DERO Foundation. I sort of not take a back step, but I sit and sort of work in the background, deal with sort of the financials, sort of the business end of the stuff, dealing with exchanges, contracts, that sort of thing, any legal issues. So yeah, so just wanted to obviously come on today and have a discussion about some of the stuff we've been doing over the last sort of three months with regards to the DERO Premine and the funding allocation. So yeah, so that's me, short and sweet introduction.
Awesome, sounds good. Asylum's been on the last couple episodes. I think people kind of know him by now, but you want to give us a quick about yourself, Asylum?
I love DERO. I've been around, and I'm back, and I'm not going away. Hey.
Perfect. All right. And TheObjectiveAlpha, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. You've probably heard me on a few ZeroPoints here and there. I'm just a DERO community member. Keen interest in DERO, everything about it, the community, the technology. I enjoy writing about it. And yeah, I like commentating on it. So I'm here to provide some support today, and yeah, hopefully we have a good show.
All right, sounds good. So Josh, so you've been working on quite a few things for the foundation, the background, and for a long time, not just the last 3 months, but you said you've been working on some specific things the last 3 months. Do you want to give an overview or tell people a little bit about what those things are?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of dealings with the sort of legal teams and discussing, obviously, one of the key sort of things we wanted to do was get listed in the US. And obviously, with the SEC, there's lots of loopholes that we have to jump through. And then, we spent quite a bit of time with the legal teams getting advice on the way we shape the future going forward. And one of the sticking points seemed to be around the Premine. So now we've concluded those conversations with the legal teams. We've basically put in some not policies, but sort of some steps to how we're going to manage the Premine, the community element of the Premine going forward, and what its use cases are, and how that shapes the future for DERO. Alongside that, obviously with the foundation, so we've done a lot of digging in and research into the actual running of the foundation. So recently, since it's been launched, it's been sitting sort of almost dormant, if you like, from a legal entity point of view. So alongside the work we've been doing here, we've been gathering some internal policies and procedures that sort of covered by the governing laws in the Netherlands and around the globe as well. Ultimately, we want to expand the foundation and its members. So basically putting in the foundations for the DERO Foundation going forward.
Yeah, so actually, that's something I wanted to touch on about expanding the foundation. I've mentioned that in a previous ZeroPoint, and I'm sure people by now are kind of curious on what the plan is with that. So, so do you have anything else you can add on what we mean when we say expanding the foundation?
Yeah, so currently there's yourself, myself, and Dank in the foundation. So we're sort of trying to look at the way we can split foundation roles out. So we're going to split it to sort of an operational, a community and education, and then we're going to have a development side of it as well. Again, that'll be sort of split between myself, yourself, Kryptoid, and Dank. Then we're looking to expand that to bring in people to work alongside each of us. And below that, we're looking to introduce what we call the DCC, which is going to be like a consortium of DERO members, who will be sort of that liaison between the community and the foundation. As you know, it's not always ideal for us to be available. We see the messages coming in Discord. We all work full time. So increasing the throughput of the foundation and having those liaisons, we can have those internal sessions where the community may go to one of the DCC members, for example, with a request. They bring it to the table in our discussions, and then we obviously discuss and agree and look at a way and move it forward. So, I mean, that's just a short summary which we can go through as we go through this session. We can go into more detail on that, but yeah, in short, that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to put some more structure in there and split it out, sort of 3 channels within the foundation.
And I know that we kind of had a short list of some people that we were trying to include. Have those conversations happened yet? Have you talked to some of those people?
Not yet. So we still don't have those conversations.
Okay, cool. So let's see. So there's probably some other stuff going on. I mean, I know you've been working really hard on a lot of documents and a lot of just basically everything we need in the background to get everything to be a well-oiled machine going forward. Is there any other topics you want to touch on as far as all that stuff goes?
Yeah, so one of the documents that I've been working on, it's quite a lengthy document, but it's been more of a memorandum to the community, so the community can have eyes on it to see some of the work we're doing. So at the minute, we're trying to trim it down, but it's a 20-page document. It basically outlines the background of the document, the Premine allocation structure, the Premine usage, the objectives and goals, the projects and initiatives. There's a section in there around the Premine and how it's going to be handled and sort of the economics of that, how the community is involved with the Premine allocation, and then how the foundation and its members are going to be monitoring and evaluating sort of the way it's spent and looking at some of the projects that come out of that. As well as that, we've been looking at a communication strategy. One of the sort of the feedback that we see from the community regularly is the communication. So as part of this document, we've highlighted how it's going to be communicated. I suppose we should probably go in, I don't know if you want to work through sort of and discuss sort of the background of why we're doing it. So as we know, we've got a community Premine of 1 million DERO. At the minute, it's sort of sitting dormant, and we've got a realm of great developers out there that, time is not always possible. Everyone has full-time jobs, like I mentioned previously, and, people might sort of need to take some time away from their day-to-day jobs, or they basically need funding for these projects. So the whole sort of purpose of this document is to draw out how we're going to be funding these projects and how the decisions are going to be made on what projects progress. So with the sort of the allocation of the funding, we've proposed a lock-in mechanism for the funding. So it's nothing's been agreed yet, but the proposed lock-in mechanism is to release it over a 10-year period. So would release those funds in line with the sort of tax year, so April the 1st to April the 1st, and would release 100,000 DERO over 10 years each year. So I'm not saying we'll be able to you will use the 100,000 every year, or we're going to say, right, there's 100,000, let's use it all. It may be a case that the sort of project proposals get put forward and the allocations, we may spend sort of 20,000-30,000 DERO over that period. That remaining 70,000, we then can agree with the community whether we put that funding back in and we lock it for a longer term to give us that longevity for that Premine.
Yeah, and actually that's something I kind of want to touch on a little bit. Over the years, we've actually gotten some flack as a foundation for not spending the Premine, but at this point, I mean, we still have the whole Premine intact to work with, which is actually a great thing. If you think about it, we could have spent it all, but 25 cents a piece or something like that, and got nowhere with it. So, at this point, we're used to working with a very small budget. So, the 100,000, I personally don't expect that we'll just burn through it. It's everything, has a reason and a purpose anytime we ever want to touch funds. So I think it'll be great. It'll help us spin up some infrastructure and do some much needed things in the background. But that sounds like a good plan, especially over 10 years. I mean, that's like you were saying, in the future, we're probably not going to be able to even find an excuse to spend that much. So it's probably going to last a lot longer than that, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously 100,000 was the first. We'll say initially 10 years. DERO is current price point. That's what $250,000 in year one. And what we want to do is we want to utilize the community skills to build that ecosystem. We've seen BNB coin, for example, when you saw Uniswap. I think it's Uniswap when that came online. The stock of BNB just went through the roof. So obviously, it may be year 2 that DERO goes to X amount of price, and that funding would know, instead of using 100,000, we're probably using 10,000, and that remaining funding can then go back into that lock-in mechanism to extend that longevity period. Because the last thing we want to do is say, right, we've got 1 million DERO, we need everything, let's just burn it. Because I use exchanges, for example. As soon as you apply for an exchange and they ask about the Premine, they know you've got a Premine, that listing fee goes through the roof. We're not talking sort of 1-2 BTC, they're talking some exchanges looking for 20-30 Bitcoin to list on their exchange, purely because they know what you've got in the Premine. So yeah, we did take quite a lot of advice on the Premine usage from the legal teams. One of those pieces of advice was that the Premine, if it's used for any kind of marketing, any kind of exchange listing, as soon as that exchange spend that coin, it becomes an investment contract, which basically puts a target on your head, but for the SEC. And as we've seen with exchanges that have come up and have not sort of had that experience with the SEC, they've just, the projects that have gone just literally just go down the pan straight away. And people will ask the question, well, what about these older coins like Bitcoin or Bitcoin, Ethereum, for example? And this I think the correct terminology, I'm no legal expert, but statute of limitations. So when a coin becomes X amount of years old, it basically becomes untouchable by the SEC for that purpose. So, unfortunately, at the minute, as much as we want to be on an American exchange and use the Premine for exchange listings, we also need to stay in line with the SEC ruling. So we understand, like, it's a frustration that we've got this Premine and people are begging for exchange listings and marketing, but if we use that funding for that purpose at this current time, at the minute, we're not on the SEC's radar. We're doing everything above board. And that was some of the feedback that we got, that, everything we're doing is in line with the SEC ruling. So we want to keep it that way, because, before you know it, you've got a legal bill and that Premine could be potentially, swallowed up, or, it's a minefield. So, it may seem sometimes that we are doing things slowly, but yeah, it is a minefield when it comes to America and the SEC.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to add on that is it's not necessarily black and white either with the exchange listings and things of that sort, and it's also a risk on the exchange's behalf. But it's just more of a gray area, and it's how you go about it too. So that was another big thing that we took away from that, was there's just not enough precedent set and enough regulation or regulatory clarity there yet. So it's not like we couldn't just use certain funds for certain things. It's just the second you do it, you're starting to move more towards the black of the gray area.
Exactly, yeah. So, for example, Kraken Exchange could take it upon themselves to list DERO. Because they've done that and taken it upon themselves, that liability would then sit with Kraken Exchange. If we was to go and ask Kraken to list us and they listed us, then that liability sits with DERO. So it's a very, like you say, it's such a grey area. And this is why it's so difficult to get listed on these US exchanges, because it's almost a case of they don't want to touch the coins because they don't want the risk, and the coins don't want to go to them because they can't have the risk. Else, it could end the project quite quickly. So yeah, we get it's frustrating that exchanges are difficult to come by, especially the good ones that we value as great exchanges. The likes of Kraken, for example. So it is a shame, but again, unfortunately, it's just a waiting game at the moment until we sort of hit that trigger point for the statute of limitations.
Well, not just a statute of limitations thing, but also regulatory clarity, I think, is the more important thing. Like with cases like Ripple and things like that, things are starting to become less, I don't know, the SEC's kind of acting like a bunch of cowboys right now, if you ask me, and that's really why everyone's shook it up at the moment. But you did mention certain exchanges, and kind of an example of, I'm not going to name the exchange, but like, for example, if there's an exchange that wants to list you, but then they also want to require you to give them a portion of the Premine that they can use for marketing, like that's a huge thing. Like that's a big thing we can't do. And some of these exchanges have actually tried to make that a requirement of being listed with them. So, things like that could also cause problems, right?
Yeah, so most exchange listings come with the requirement that you provide some funding for liquidity, and basically a requirement either they will pay for the market maker, or they have their own internal market maker, but we have to pay for it. So it's very difficult to to list on exchanges with that liquidity. So, it may be a case that sometimes that we have to put our own liquidity in, if any, from our own pockets, can't come from that foundation Premine, because the minute it does, that's it. It's another tick in the SEC's box. So it is difficult listing on exchanges, and this is why it's nothing concrete at the moment, but I think pretty much the consensus is that 1 million community Premine will not be used for marketing activities and for exchange listings, and we're purely going to be using it for incentives for like hackathons and development and requests for proposals. So this is where this document sort of outlines the structure of that. So we're purely sort of at the minute focusing on RFPs and community development work, and I suppose we should probably go into a bit more detail on that process, really.
Yeah, I'm open for whatever you want to get into next as far as the details of any of that goes. That was actually going to be my next talking point. If you had anything specifically, like any specific examples of things that we're going to be doing.
To sort of talk through the process of how we see it working going forward. So we're going to be having a RFP process, so request for proposals, and the development requirements are going to be sourced from sort of 3 areas. So you've got the DERO community, the DERO Foundation, and then from the core developers of DERO. So there's three channels there for requirements. Maybe a case, Captain may come along and say, right, we need this. The community will come along and say, we need this. And the foundation will say, right, we need this developing. We will then take that out to the wider public, to the community, and say, right, we've got these RFPs, we've got these requirements that we need fulfilling. Is there any developers that want to take on that task or can enhance on those ideas further, for example?
Just for people who don't know what an RFP is, could you like just define RFP real quick?
So it's a request for proposal. So it's almost like a job listing, job advertisement. So, for example, I may have a request to say, right, I want somebody to create a wallet that works on, I use mobile, for example. I want a mobile wallet, basically. Or I want a DEX creating, for example. We'll put that request out on some kind of board. We're still finalising the details on how they're going to be actioned. We found sort of a couple of tools we were looking to use for that. And there may be a fee attached to it at that point. If it's something really, really small or something that's quite simple, we'll probably discuss and put those fees on it. If it's a bigger project, for example, something similar to a DEX or something like that, we'll send those requests out, see who's up to the challenge, and then we'll basically set up a discussion call to sort of refine the requirements with the developers and understand, how long is this actually going to take in hours? So then we can take that away and have those discussions around the funding. Or at that point, the developers who are sort of willing to take on the challenge may go, this is how much we want to be able to do this. And there'll be a lot of back and forward and discussions. And this is where it's going to be key for the foundation, the core developers, and the DCC to be involved in there is to we might have a pool of developers that sit within the community that we don't always see. A lot of people sit in silence in Discord, in Element, for example. So this is where the DCC is going to be key in those communications with the foundation. So once we've sort of discussed the project size and how long it's going to take, the human hours it's going to take to do that development, we'll then sort of agree on the funding. So we'll sort of work out, what is X amount of average salary in that person's country if they're willing to give that information away, or what do we believe is an acceptable value to put on that project, for example, and then we'll agree that internally. At which point all of this will be, completely public and will be communicated. And alongside that, we'll also set deadlines on there and set sort of milestones along the way. So one thing that we probably could be guilty of is, we can say, right, we've got this project here, this person's taking this on, and, we give them open rein to say, yes, you can work on this. Ultimately, we've got a year's worth of funding that gets released. So we need to set project deadlines. And if we're treating it as, we almost need to treat it as real life business, if you like, when it comes to the development. And, we have to understand at that point when we're having those discussions with the developers is to say, how many hours can you put on this a week? It may be a case that say, right, this is going to take me 6 months to do this because I've got X, Y, and Z commitments in life, which is, it's absolutely fine. We understand DERO isn't a full-time for everyone. So we agree that within sort of that agreement and project deadline phase, and then we'll agree that with the developers as well. Once we've got the agreement on there, we'll take it to the community to obviously be sure that the community are happy with it as well. And then we set up the test phases. So we'll have the development. We'll be looking for sort of testers to do testing in sort of a development environment. And then we want to take it through sort of alpha, beta, and then into a user acceptance testing phase, which is going to be key because, as you know, community love to see what's progressing. And with it being a community pre-mine as well, that requirement is going to be that, it's released to the community for testing the community to see as part of those projects. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that early. It's, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, so what you're explaining, so people aren't just thinking, so they're going to unlock this portion that all of a sudden they're just going to dump it on the market and pay themselves or whatever, like 99% of other projects out there. No, there's actually a plan. It gets unlocked. It goes to community development projects. It goes to the community. It goes to things that benefit everyone, and it goes over time, right? It doesn't just get dumped straight on the market, and it goes to people not necessarily just to be switched out for cash to pay people in dollars or something like that. I think that's an important thing to point out.
Yeah, correct. I mean, with the once the project's been agreed as well, there is payment milestones. So we'd love to be able to pay people up front, but we're going to be that for those projects, they'll be paid on a release structure. So I think we toyed with the idea of that when it's released at development stage, we're looking at 50% of the RFP. Once it's released to alpha, it'll be 60%. Once it's released to beta, 75%. And then once it gets to UAT and full release, we will then look to have a warranty period on the product as well, or the release. So, it may be a case of 2 weeks, 1 month, depending on how big the project is, at which point we'll get approval from the DERO core developers, the DERO Foundation and the DCC community to say, yeah, we're happy with that. And then the full payment gets released. And alongside that as well, Captain has sort of mentioned that he wants to put sort of an auditing role in these projects as well. So Captain and the other core developers will play a key part in sort of auditing those projects once they're completed.
Perfect. I kind of want to open it up for Azylem and Alpha to start asking anything if they have any more questions on this. I've kind of been over some of this already with Joshy, so if you guys have any questions you might want to add to.
Well, I have just a little comment. Like, I do really like this. So what this effectively is for any keen developers out there, this is what you want to hear. Thank you for the work you guys have done. It's a path, right? You can actually see a path where if you're a developer and you're serious about wanting to develop something that you think is an important piece of infrastructure or that will be important going forward, there is a path here, where if you are serious about it and you're willing to go through some of the structure that Joshy just went over, it can be done, and the foundation is looking in that direction. I really appreciate the security and just safety first way that the community pre-mine was handled. If you are in an unsure environment, which is what the legal environment and the SEC has kind of brought around crypto, the wise thing to do is to wait. And I do really appreciate the safety first way that the pre-mine was handled. So yeah, I do appreciate what you've been doing, and I think there are, like Joshy said, I think there is a pool of developers out there that generally are silent. They don't really speak, but this is a real structure that's going to be being put in place here, and I think it will really draw out some interesting people, projects, developers, ideas, etc. This is really promising.
I think a good thing to point out as well is that it doesn't necessarily don't take what I've just said as you need to be a developer. I know we've got graphic designers within the community, and we've got people with great ideas that don't have the skills to develop, and I'll hold my hands up. I'm not a developer. I might have some good ideas, and the frustrating point is I haven't got those skills, but I want to take this, I can take this to the DCC and go, I've got this great idea. We need X, Y, and Z. But, can you link me up with the pool of developers that are up to the task? And, I may be a graphic designer, and you can join that team as a graphics person, or you may have other skills that you can bring to sort of a project team that development funding gets released internally within that project team. So it's not just a great opportunity for developers, it's a great opportunity for everybody, because people have some amazing ideas and you see them floated, but they just they don't always have the skills to put the pen to paper, as you say. But that was sort of where we wanted to go with this, is to open it up for everyone, really, not just developers.
That is a fantastic point. And I can say from experience, just being in and around the community, we do have a lot of really good talent from, a wide array of fields, including, graphic design, just project management in general. All these other aspects beyond just coding that is required for a functioning project to, go forward. So, that's a really good point.
Yeah, just the presence of the proposal and end-to-end pipeline for funding and development. The mere presence of the pipeline itself will attract people out from the bushes, so to speak, and give them an opportunity to meet other people that are interested in building the same sort of thing, and a meeting point to do so they can, there's a social aspect to the presence of the pipeline. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. I mean, one person can create a proposal, and then a dozen people come out of the woodwork to respond to it and express interest to getting involved in a particular project. And through the process of doing that, they would be demonstrating their skill set and whatnot to everybody else in the pool of people. So it would act as a multiplier for connections, I guess. I'm excited to see that.
That was one of the sort of things that that the ethos around the whole proposal was that the community is a breeding ground of innovative ideas, and having that Premine that's a valuable resource, and it aligns with sort of the aspirations of people in the community, is that we literally can drive the project forward. Captain and the other core developers have built the foundations to work to do that. But what is going to drive DERO forward and massive in the market? I don't like talking about the value of DERO. The value is one DERO is one DERO to me. So what people are looking for, the community are going to be pivotal to driving that forward. And those who advocate privacy, privacy tools and the opportunities are endless. Really, it's as much as your imagination can, as far as it can take you. Really,
yeah, we can't understate the positive effect of being patient and waiting has had either. Because over the last few years, it really the waiting to initiate these sorts of funding processes really allowed the dreamers to envision the baseline of the space. So you got community developers like P45 and Slick. You got the civilware guys like Nelbert and Dank and Six. You get all these guys envisioning the base infrastructure of this beast of a thing, so that those tools are available to the people that create proposals for funding. So they don't have to waste their time, building the basics to even start building things that people would, because all of that infrastructure and thought has already been put together, coordinated, and teams formed already. So I don't think something quite like this has ever happened in the cryptocurrency space. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Just waiting. Stargate is nearly 2 years old from mainnet launch now, and we've learned how to do these things, on our own. And that's, in my opinion, that's the way I view how one should look to do something. Is you make your own road. You find out the way to do it yourself, and to see that organically happen over the last couple of years has been fantastic. Like Azylem's named out some community developers. There's other ones out there too. Apollo, that they're doing, what the foundation is, looking to put actual structure in for, but they're doing it on their own. They're actually putting together their own teams, and of not just programmers but project managers, strategists, logicians, etc. So, to see this extra, further potential bootstrapping onto that, just this patient, the tortoise beats the hare kind of path this is the path to longevity. And I do appreciate it. And what Azylem says is really, really accurate.
I think that's always been the goal, is longevity, right? Right, Joshy?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it's alongside the longevity point of it is the community is what is going to drive DERO forward. The foundation is set up to sort of, we're coordinating that, and we've got the legal entity and sort of the sort of the gatekeeper of the funds at the moment. However, the community and their initiatives and ideas is what's going to drive DERO forward. And this sort of proposal that we're putting forward is going to bring in that collaboration between all parties. We are all DERO community at the end of the day, but it's going to sort of bring everyone together. Like you say, we've got a group of developers who are currently working at the moment and building tools and are not getting paid for it. There's a great opportunity here that somebody might go, I'd love to be able to do that, but I just need that little extra bit of funding to be able to do it. Or it might be I need a PC to it, or another desktop, for example, and that funding is going to open massive gates for people, really. And I think it's just a great opportunity for, there might be people out there that want to set up a project team purely just to work on DERO and accept the RFPs that come out. It's exciting to see. I've got my own personal ideas. I know you guys have got your own ideas on what you'd love to see on DERO, but to be able to get people to actually, pay people to do that in DERO and build people's dreams, if you like. I know it sounds cringy to say that, but ultimately that's what it is. And they were all there to advocate privacy, and there's some fantastic ideas and tools that could be made available for people, because we need it. The future needs it.
Yeah, and you were talking, like at the end of the day, we're all the community, right? So, and you were talking about the community and pushing everything forward. Earlier, you mentioned the DCC. Do you want to go into a little bit, like, I don't know, maybe kind of try to give a high level on what the DCC is and how it's structured a little bit, maybe? I don't know if you had documents that you were planning on sharing when this episode's released or not, but if you just want to go over any of that stuff, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so the way we sort of visioned the DCC, then they would sort of the DCC members would sit as an extension of the foundation, but like I say, we are all one community. But we'd have a foundation member sort of not manage but look after. They'd be sort of responsible for the DCC elements of it, depending on which sort of channel. If you're in the operational development, for example, and was looking at having maybe one or two DCC sort of leads per area, or a DCC lead and then a DCC coordinator. So was basically going to split that down by Europe, North America, South America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. So you'd have ultimately two DCC members for each one, and they'd be that person to go to with your ideas. Some people don't want to make their ideas public, and some people may just want to be able to drop it into a document and then email that across to somebody to open. And then those DCC members would bring it to the table in our discussions that we have when we're prioritising those projects. Alongside that, we're sort of relying on these people to translate where possible any communications. I understand it's not straightforward, and understand English isn't everyone's native language. So, there's a bit of a sort of an expectation on there to translate any communications that come out. And I think it's just going to give an opportunity to give the community somebody they can go to, somebody with standing within the community that's well respected and works hard for DERO. Alongside the new foundation members, it's going to be people who work hard for DERO. It's not sort of an elite club. If it's not nothing like that at all. We need people that are going to be trustworthy, and this is why we've set some internal policies up within the foundation. So to make sure that we've got sort of just run through some of the policies. We've got anti-harassment, code of ethics policies, conflicts of interests, anti-bribery, safeguarding policies that we put in place as well for people that become part of the DCC and the DERO Foundation going forward, just to make sure not only we're covering sort of law, but when you are working within the DERO Foundation and the DCC, that it's a safe working environment for everybody, and everyone, everyone's opinions are respected. We expect everybody to act professional, so we need to be professional in ourselves. So,
I think that's more important than some people might put any weight on. The fact that it's not just like a boys club or just like an elite group of people or however you want to put it. It's basically people who are vetted. We kind of ran into this at the very beginning of the project launch back on the Atlantis chain. We had people who wanted to be. We had the DCAB, right? It was the Community Advisory Board, and people were looking more at that just as being, I'm part of this, so I'm more important than other people, or whatever their view was. And it turned into just kind of a social nightmare for a little while. And that's why it was eventually dissolved, because it wasn't really people who wanted to work. It was people who wanted a title, if that makes sense. So I think this approach is much better and more clear. The clarity is what's important on this one, is that it's not, like you're not making yourself part of an elite club. You've been vetted as somebody who is going to do the right thing and work with the project and so on and so forth.
Exactly, yeah. And the key thing is the decision making. So the decision making isn't just going to fall solely on the foundation. It'll be discussions between the DCC, the foundation, and the core developers. But we need people that can make sound decisions and not act rationally. So it may be, you may have some people that may take decisions, and there will be some prickly conversations that go on, as me, you, and Dank have had some prickly conversations when it comes to decision making, and we might not always agree on things, but we need to be able to have those conversations and act professionally while we're doing so. So this is why we wanted to put these policies and these sort of memorandum of understandings in, to put them in place so people feel safe and don't feel sort of I'm trying to think of the right word, and basically so we're all making the right decisions and we're all acting professionally while we're working on DERO. And again, that extends out into public as well. So you're in the DCC and the DERO Foundation. The expectation is there that you act professionally within public, when in the public domain as well. I'm not one for sort of saying you can't post X on Twitter or whatever. It's on X now. That sounds wrong saying that, but yeah. So when you're acting in Discord, if you're a DCC member, you can't be sort of having arguments in public with members in Discord, where it's it gets awkward to be sometimes, if that makes sense.
We'll just call them overly political type arguments.
Yeah, basically what you wouldn't do at work is summary really. If you was working in your current day-to-day job, is act as you are in your job, unless you work at home, self-employed. That's up to everyone else if they want to work in their pants with a cup of tea all day.
All right. So is there anything else that you wanted to touch on as far as all this stuff goes right now, or is there more to come, or what should we expect next?
So it's probably just the last piece of it. So we've gone through sort of the requirements gathering, how the project funding will be handled, and the decision making and the structure. So part of the whole sort of the end-to-end process that we're doing here is that once a project goes live, is we're going to be monitoring and evaluating, and not just when a project goes live, but throughout its life cycle as well. So we're going to be obviously setting up project milestones and benchmarks, and we want to evaluate the value of those projects. So it might be a case that we do a decentralized exchange style project, and it may not have the impact that we expected it. They may say, right, something costs 10,000 DERO, and we're going to sit together as the DCC, the foundation, the core developers, and have those discussions. Say, right, did this project bring the value that was needed? Just so we can be, it's all a learning curve. The technology is changing day by day, and we're seeing lots of AI coming in now, and it may be a case we do a project today, 6 months down the line, that there's no requirement for that project, so we need to evaluate what we're doing, how the funds are being spent, and make sure that we're going the right way. So it's constantly going to be, basically the point I'm trying to get is that everything we do is going to be constantly monitored and evaluated going forward. It may be a case that we set some KPIs up from these project teams, some key performance indicators. Somebody may come along with an RFP that's sort of trade related or value related. We can set some KPIs up on those as well. I think probably one thing to point out on the funding is that there may be a requirement as part of that project proposals that there is a third party audit taking place within those projects that are happening. The expectation is that where the core developers can't audit that piece of software or code that's been implemented, that would be the sort of the responsibility of that project to go away and get that element audited, if you like, because we just need to make sure that everything that's being delivered to the community is as it is, and there's nothing untoward in there. And again, we're always going to be doing impact assessments along the way to ensure that user adoption and technological advancements are always being covered. And again, just the key thing I think is transparent reporting to the community. So I think that's one thing to take away from this, is that it's going to be a massive community incentive to get your ideas across, and this sort of the feedback loop is going to be opened up. And we don't want to be all cloak and dagger. We want to completely open and transparent with the community on the projects we're doing. So at the minute, we're, as you can probably appreciate, the lock-in mechanism at the moment is sort of a key sticking point for us before we can release the information. It's just going to be locked into a smart contract. As you know, 1 million DERO locked into a smart contract is going to be a massive target. So we have got to make sure that it's watertight. So at the minute, there isn't any date on there when we can get started. Purely on the fact that this is going to be a sort of a sticking point for us at the moment, is to make sure that this smart contract is watertight, because like I say, it's that itself will have a massive target.
Yeah, and Captain has already, the core developers have already talked about that and that fact, and they are on board and working on that. So if anybody's curious, it's not going to be us that actually build that contract for good reason. So that's something the core developers are working on, because that, like you said, that contract needs to be bulletproof.
Yeah, and I think, the release schedule, we've put 10 years on it, but we've had conversations that we have no intentions of going anywhere unless something, God forbid, happens. And I think, what we're doing here, it reinforces the commitment, not just from the DERO Foundation, but from the core developers of driving DERO forward. And it reinforces that ethos that DERO is shaped collectively by its community members. So yeah, I'm really excited for it to get out into the open and to start moving forward on it, really, and seeing what some of the amazing projects, ideas, and deliverables actually come out in the next couple of years. So yeah, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, I think about 6 years ago, people thought that this project wouldn't last a year, and probably about 5 years ago, they thought it wouldn't last 2, and we're still here. So, and now we have a plan for 10 more. So I think this is all really good stuff.
And the best tools on the planet to run it with.
And up until this point, we've done everything with nothing.
Exactly.
So hardened.
We are still out there. The exchange hunt never stops. I'm in contact with multiple exchanges. I've probably got a contact now at every single exchange. And sometimes, we're having conversations with the exchanges, and like I say, I've said it out in public as well. The due diligence we do on these exchanges is pretty heavy. Some of the questions we ask the exchanges, and previous exchanges we've dealt with, their development teams have been beyond a joke. So we have to make sure that anything we move forward, the exchange has to be right. And at the minute, I know we've just got XEdX launched. We're still, we've got a couple of exchanges we're in discussion with at the moment. Again, we're sort of observing at the moment, sitting and watching, and it's just a shame that a lot of these under NDA. Some of the proposals that come back for listing, it's entertaining to say the least. So, but yeah, we're still actively looking at exchanges at the moment. So just rest assured on that. But as soon as we get information, we'll share that.
I did want to add to that that it is kind of funny. Like some exchanges, their tech teams, like you would think they never touched a coin before, and then some exchanges you don't even have to talk to them, and they know exactly what's going on and don't require anything from us.
Exactly. Some we've dealt with exchanges before where we've had to set up Telegram chats with their team of developers, and then props to call it ZeroPoint. That literally no questions asked. Within 2 days, it was listed. So yeah, big props to Carl over there. It was a breath of fresh air to actually work with an exchange like TradeOver as well. For example, they just took it upon themselves, and then sort of no questions asked again. And it's straightforward if you've got the right people. But it's just it's a worrying sign when you speak to some of these exchanges and they just haven't got a clue when it comes to integrating. So
Yeah, I think the foundation has gotten a little bit of a reputation as being hard to work with with exchanges, but I think that the real reality of it that you're kind of outlining right now is it's not necessarily that we're hard to work with. It's that the the exchanges themselves are all so different and have different levels of qualifications as far as tech teams go, and then also the industry in general. Like you're saying, as soon as they find out you have a Premine, then all of a sudden they want like these huge chunks of money that don't make any sense.
It's actually quite worrying. I know. We always say, not your keys, not your coins. Never leave your coins on an exchange, and it is really worrying to see the amount of money that gets traded through some of these exchanges and sort of the incompetence of the exchanges. I dread to think how much money some people have got on those exchanges at certain times. You see the buy orders on like some of the charts and you're thinking, my God, like you have that money in your wallet, it's setting a buy order. But if you knew it was going on at the back end, you'd be like, nah, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, there's a specific exchange that sticks out to me that I definitely never kept anything on. And there's a few in the past too, but I don't even think they're around anymore. But I didn't even use quite a few of the exchanges that have been out there.
Just always good practice. And, with Engram releasing on mobile, that's, we see a lot of people coming into the Discord, don't we, talking about where's the best place to store my DERO? Like, I need to get it off the exchange. Having Engram available now on desktop and mobile, it makes it so much easier for people to keep it in a safe environment where it's you own it and it's not being held somebody else. So
I would still argue that mobile isn't the safest place to keep your keys. I would say I would be against that, but in a lot of cases, it's still better than having it on the exchange.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to add about the future or anything else in the works?
Yeah, so I know we've had discussions. It's not sort of DERO related, but it's sort of DERO community related. Is we're looking to set up a game night. So I know you've probably seen Azylem. You mentioned it, didn't you, in one of the Discord channels? Is that we want to start getting a bit of a community game night going. So it's difficult at the moment because obviously everyone's on different platforms. So we're sort of trying to at the moment looking at games that across platform that we can get everybody involved in, and we're looking at probably once a month. And potentially do it bi-weekly, and you may not have the game, you may just want to watch, so we're also potentially looking at doing sort of a multi-stream live stream so people can live stream it from their own viewpoint, and it'd just be a bit of a fun environment for people to hang out and chat on a Saturday night or Sunday, wherever we decide to do it. We should have some more details of that soon. But if anybody's got any recommendations, just feel free to drop us a message on Discord. And I think there's a new game out there at the moment. I can't think what it's called. Power World, is it? That everyone seeing playing, whether that's cross-platform. It's somebody mentioned that the other day. So yeah, it's I appreciate it. I'm not always as active in Discord. I do read a lot of Discord, but I suppose it's there's no sort of mystical aura around us. We're human beings at the end of the day, and people may have questions that they don't feel comfortable asking. And it's we spend a lot of time with some of these people in Discord, and it'd just be good to get to build that relationship with the community, especially if we're going to be working closer with the community on this development proposals going forward.
Cool. Awesome. And yeah, game ideas are definitely welcome. I mean, we were talking about it would be fun to have games where they could be multiplayer in a way where there could be bounties on certain people and stuff like that. So people take us out, then they can win small amounts of DERO or something like that. Get a little prize pool going or something, make it more fun.
Yeah, so I know we threw the idea as a new game, Skull and Bones, coming out, an Ubisoft game, so I think that's going to be cross-platform. But we did think it'd be pretty fun to have a bit of just an ingest DERO versus Pirate game on Skull and Bones. I think it's something pretty fun to watch, and probably set a bit of a bounty on it. So yeah, it was that's one of the ideas we came up with. So yeah, any more, feel free to jump in.
Oh, and to everybody in the US, this is a game night. But it's going to be night for Europe most likely, right, Joshy? And then it'll be more daytime for us.
Yeah, we can alternate it. It doesn't, it doesn't need to be European time. It's we can alternate it. So, we've got people gaming at sort of 4 a.m, then people gaming at 10 o'clock at night, for example. So yeah, we can alternate it based on, we'll probably just say who wants to join and look at who wants to join, and then set that time the week before, for example. But yeah,
that's a good idea. Good idea. I didn't think of it.
Fun, be able to see it from perspectives, and it's sometimes not everybody sees the fun sides, mods and stuff like that. But yeah, it'd be nice to see be able to see people's personalities, especially when a 1v1 of Azylem and Call of Duty or something like that. So
awesome. So do you have any idea on when you might be releasing the details on when game nights are going to start, or is that still in the works?
so it's still in the works. So I think it would be sometime in February. We're releasing that for potentially looking at getting the first one in February towards the end. So should have that in the next couple of weeks, depending on when this episode goes out. So it may be already done then, depending when this goes out. So
well, it'll probably be in about 2 weeks. So
yeah, we might have detailed that already at this point then.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, is there anything else that anybody else wants to add?
I think I'm good.
Nope, I'm good over here. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Joshy.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's took me a while to get onto the ZeroPoint, but yeah, thank you for hosting me.
Yeah, if anybody's wondering why we're starting to do the pre-recorded ZeroPoints, it's because sometimes it's hard to get the right schedule that works for everybody. So it's easier to just record them first and then release them later. It's just a matter of some semantics and logistics. There we go. All right. Well, if that's all everybody has, then I guess we can wrap it up here. Next ZeroPoint, we will have Objective Alpha on as the main guest, and we'll be talking about money, origins of money, maybe economics, maybe yellow sunglasses. I don't know.
All the cool stuff.
And then, yeah. So we'll wrap this one up, and just remember: not your keys, not your coins, not your coins, not your business. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.